So something genuinely wild happened last week. On June 12th, the US government essentially took Anthropic's two most powerful AI models offline. And the thing that triggered it was three words: fix this code. That's it. So we're going to break down what actually went down, why the developers and security researchers are furious about it, and honestly, what this means for anyone building on top of AI models going forward. So here's a quick timeline. Fable 5, Anthropic's newest model built on top of something called Mythos, launched on June 9th. 3 days later, at 5:21 in the evening on a Friday, Anthropic gets a directive from the US Commerce Department. The letter gives almost no details, just says stop all foreign nationals from accessing Fable 5 and Mythos 5 immediately. And because Anthropic can't realistically verify nationality on the fly for hundreds of millions of users, they pull the plug on both models for everyone, worldwide, within about 90 minutes. Now, before we get into the controversy, quick context on what these models actually are. Mythos is Anthropic's frontier research model. Think of it like their internal crown jewel. So capable, they actually said it was too dangerous to release broadly. Fable 5 is basically the commercial version of Mythos, same underlying architecture, but wrapped in a whole layer of safety guardrails designed to make it deployable. And here's what's interesting: Anthropic was actually really upfront at launch that perfect jailbreak resistance isn't possible. They said that publicly. Their whole strategy was defense in depth, that is, make jailbreaks narrow, expensive, and monitorable, but not zero. So here's where it gets interesting. Researchers, reportedly from Amazon security team, ran a test. They fed Fable 5 some code with known vulnerabilities. When they asked review this particular code for security issues, Fable 5 refused. Guardrails worked, but when they rephrased it to just fix the code, the model compiled. It fixed the bugs, and with some extra manual steps, they got it to generate test scripts for the patches. That's the so-called jailbreak. That's what triggered a national security export control on one of the most capable AI systems in the world. Now, here's where the security community absolutely loses it. Katie Masouras, founder of Luta Security and one of the people who literally invented modern bug bounty programs, reviewed the actual report that government based this on. She's the only outside expert who read it, and her take was this isn't a jailbreak. What researchers found is what she's calling defense oriented prompting, finding bugs, fixing them, generating test scripts. That's what security engineers do every day. Defenders do this constantly. If you make AI worse at fixing code, you don't help defenders. You just help attackers who will use open weight models with zero restrictions anyway. And she's not alone. Over 100 cybersecurity leaders signed an open letter opposing the ban. Their core argument is that the controls actually make US cyber defense worse and not better, because now the defenders who were using Fable 5 for patch verification for vulnerability research, they lose access. Meanwhile, attackers can just spin up an open weight model and do whatever they want. You've essentially handicapped the good guys and handed an advantage to anyone willing to run a llama locally. It's a deeply counterintuitive move. There's also a political layer here worth understanding. Reports have pointed to Amazon's research as the source of the underlying paper. And Amazon CEO Andy Jassy apparently escalated this to US officials, which is a little awkward because Amazon Web Services and Anthropic are also deeply financially intertwined. AWS has made huge investments in Anthropic. So you've got a situation where one of Anthropic's biggest investors is also apparently the origin of the report that got their flagship models banned. The tech press has obviously noticed this. And this is where it actually gets even more complicated because the jailbreak claim might actually be the smaller part of the story. Axios reported that government has a second broader grievance. That is, there are allegations that an entity with ties to Chinese government accessed Mythos, not Fable 5, Mythos, the restricted research model. And separately, there are claims that Anthropic wasn't fully compliant with recent cyber executive order. Anthropic hasn't confirmed either of these. But if true, this isn't just a prompt engineering dispute, it's much bigger policy and trust breakdown between Anthropic and the current administration. So let's talk about the actual mechanism here, because this is important if you are building on top of any AI API. Export control law in the US is designed to stop sensitive technology from reaching adversaries, but the government applied it to model access, not hardware, not weights, just API access. And because reliably verifying nationality at scale is essentially impossible for Anthropic in real time, they had to pull both models for everybody. Not just foreign users, not just adversaries. The UK, Canada, Australia, the EU, all gone. Even Anthropic's own employees who are foreign nationals couldn't access it. The scope of this is unprecedented. So, if you're building on Fable 5 or Mythos, what do you actually do right now? First, Anthropic has been clear that all their other models, including Claude 4.8, are completely unaffected. So, if you're on API and you haven't upgraded to Fable 5 yet, nothing changes for you. If you're using Fable 5 specifically for something where its capability ceiling mattered, like let's say advanced code generation or complex reasoning tasks, you're either rolling back or switching providers temporarily. The bigger concern isn't this specific incident, it's the precedent it sets. Here's why this matters well beyond Anthropic. This is the first time the US government has used export control authority to restrict live commercial LLM access, ever. And Anthropic made a point of calling this out. Like they said, if the standard is any non-universal jailbreak means the model gets recalled, that's essentially a standard that applies to every frontier model currently developed. OpenAI, Google, Mistral, every model has edge cases. If this precedent holds, you've basically created a mechanism where any government agency can take down any commercial AI model with very little process and almost no lead time. That's not just an Anthropic problem, that's an infrastructure risk for the entire industry. So where does this go? As of right now, Anthropic senior technical staff are in Washington meeting with White House and Commerce Department officials. They are pushing back hard on jailbreak characterization and trying to get access restored. There are a few ways this plays out. Either the government accepts Anthropic's argument and we see Fable 5 come back relatively quickly, or there's a partial restoration where Fable 5 returns but Mythos stays off limits, or the dispute escalates because the underlying issues go beyond just this one prompt. And the thing worth watching is whether this triggers any broader regulatory framework, because right now none of this happened through any formal transparent statutory process. And that's the part Anthropic is objecting to the loudest. If you're interested in more such videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you.